Good morning. Today we're going to take a look at this lock mechanism. This is from a 1973 CB350, but I think these mechanisms are very similar. I've got a mechanism that didn't work, but I had sets of keys, and when I took it apart I lost parts of it, and so I bought a second mechanism on eBay for 10 bucks, and I'm going to take this one apart, and hopefully between the two I can have a full lock mechanism. I couldn't find anything in references or even pictures about how this lock mechanism worked, and so I'm just doing this video for the two people who might need that. I think the first step is going to be to bend back these three tabs so that you can take off this back plate. Under there's another plate that's sandwiched with springs and little ball bearings. And so you have to be very careful when you take this apart so that you don't lose those, which is what happened to me. I lost a spring and a ball bearing, and I didn't get to see very well how it was put together. So my intent with taking this one apart is going to be to have a really good understanding of how this thing goes together, because I couldn't find any diagrams. I couldn't find anything. Anyway, here's the mechanism that I'm going to be working with, and we're going to take this one apart, and really I'm really interested in just harvesting really this back piece, the internal mechanism, and really just the internal mechanism with the ball bearings, or maybe one or two of the ball bearings and one or two of the springs. I think there's only 2 springs and 2 ball bearings, but I'm not 100% sure. So anyway, I'm gonna work on this, and I'll bring you back when I've got it pulled apart, and we can have a conversation on it. Okay, so I have bent those out of the way, and there was spring pressure here, so that popped up. I'm gonna remove this so we can see what we've got in here. This mechanism is a little bit different than the mechanism on the other lock that I have, which is right here. And so I'm going to pull this apart and see if we can use it. This may be a non-useful anyway, I'm going to pull this up. There should be some springs. Okay, we have the mechanism apart, and you can see that it's got these 2 contact patches with little plastic backing plates. It's got a set of springs in there, and then underneath that is where the ball bearings live, and that allows, I think, for the detents effectively as it rolls along. And so I'm not sure if I'll be able to use that in this mechanism, but the idea is to reassemble this using the parts that are coming out of this one, to go back into the key mechanism for the keys that I have. The reason I'm doing that is because I've got the keys for both the ignition and for the steering lock, and I had keys made up. This lock was frozen, and so in order to unfreeze it, I had to disassemble it, and unluckily I lost some parts, or just due to my own negligence, I lost parts. So anyway, I'm going to reassemble this and see if I can get it to work, and we'll go from there. I hope this is useful to somebody. Yeah. I wanted to show the 2 internal mechanisms. This one is from the eBay lock, and this is the one that came with the bike. And so I'm going to transfer the springs into this one and the detents, and then reassemble using the old one, and we'll see if that works. If not, I'll pull it apart and see if I can reassemble it with this one and the backing plate. The 2 backing plates look very similar. Here's the first one, one that just came out of the eBay one, and this is the one that came out of the this is the one that came out of the other. And so you can see they're the same, and so it just updates in the plastic parts. This is probably one's probably an earlier model, one's a later model. So anyway, I wanted to talk about the orientation on reassembly. This is pretty slick because there's basically only one orientation that this goes in. It can go in one way or orient 180 degrees, and the mechanisms are the same on this side, so they both are the same type of mechanism, and so it doesn't really matter. I think the thing that matters is you get the mechanism in this correctly, which I'm gonna go back and look at the video to make sure I understood how it came out. The orientation of the two. I think the two nipples go on the outside, and then the one nipple on the inside. So I'm not sure, but I'll find out. Okay, I just want to talk a little bit more about reassembly on this. You can see that these pieces go in like so, similar to how we took it apart. And then the question is, how do we know the orientation is correct? Well, this is the same. This backside has it such that it fits on that cog, and so there's only one orientation. Really, it doesn't matter if you do it this way or that way, the effect is the same. And so yeah, you just put it all back together. I think put the ball bearings under where they naturally sit, and then they'll come into contact with that spring and hopefully slot into place. You'll get it all back together, and then it squishes back together or sandwiches back together. So anyway, here we go. Okay, loaded those two balls in, and then this will fall in on top of that, like so. Align on those two balls, and then springs on top of those, and then the feet on top of those with the nipples out, and then it all goes back together and crushes. It's got a cutout on the electronic part so that you only can put the electronic part in one way. So I'll do that and then come back. Here we have the two springs in, and we'll load the feet on top of those, and they go in the little things. I'll do that and then show that. We have the two springy feet in place. Those have a spring and then a ball bearing underneath them, and then we're ready to reinstall install the cleaner of the two contacts, and I'll bring you back. Okay, here it is all assembled, and we can see, holy, close the camera, that it turns, the key turns. So I'm going to call that a win and going down the road.